The second part of the process that we need to be aware of is that in early 1781 and into 1782, after the time of Yorktown, it's very safe to say that the government under the Continental Congress was flat out broke. Didn't have any money. I can wrap it up for you this way. A man by the name of Robert Morris, the superintendent of finance, called the financier of the Revolution, an amazing individual, personally very wealthy at this point, had been pleading with the French, please more subsidies, please more loans, and the French were saying, it's about time you, Americans, pick up the tab for your own revolution. Morris says the government's broke. This is not good because this leads to the concern on the part of the soldiers who haven't been paid quite often, on the part of the officers who, by the way, had been promised half-pay pensions to keep them in the service going back to August of 1780, all the way back to 1777. Originally, 1778, they were promised 7 years after the war of half-pay pensions, make the adjustment to civilian life. And then, as it turns out, you're going to find that the officers are going to go to Congress, a representative group, and say, hey, tell you what we're going to do. You make those half-pay pensions for life or we'll resign. You go ahead and fight the war. And guess what Congress said? Fine, we like this. You guys are going to get those pensions, but there's only one problem. I've given it to you. Congress is what? It's broke. There's no way Congress can fund the pensions. So let me give you one more detail. It's an important part of this story. And that is, in 1781, once the Articles of Confederation, which did not provide for taxation, only the requisitioning of states, that is, oh, pretty please, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Georgia, whatever, give us some money. And they, of course, said, well, we have our own commitments back here. We can't spend a lot of money on you. That's one of the reasons Congress is broke. So there's a plan to give Congress taxation power through imports, taxes on imports. And the leaders in the Continental Army, George Washington included, say, this is going to solve the problem. We get some revenue in the hands of the central government. That will provide for the pensions. That will provide for the issues of pay for the common soldiers, and on and on. And then what happened? Under the Articles, the states were sovereign, so all 13 had to ratify. Wrap it up for you. In November of 1782, little Rhode Island voted no. 12 voted yes, Rhode Island voted no. It's up. You can see what I'm trying to tell you. That plan of trying to give Congress some taxation authority is gone. Now they're going to try to negotiate, and there'll be another plan. It will fail, so on and so forth in the next couple of years. But what I want you to understand is that's the trigger. November of 1782, Rhode Island says no. The officers show up with petitions written initially by Henry Knox, sponsored by the likes of Horatio Gates and others, threatening Congress. And the threat is, if you can't pay or you can't fund those pensions, we want 5 years of full pay when we are mustered out of the service, or else. Now, if you're in the Continental Congress, do you have a problem? You got a big problem because you don't have any money. In fact, I can tell you, I'll cheat a little bit and jump ahead. Robert Morris went to work and he said, well, when I pull everything together and scrape and do all I can, he is the superintendent of finance of the Congress, he said, I can come up with a month's pay for everybody. Well, that isn't going to satisfy the common soldiers, let alone the officers. So they are now determined to force the issue. And so with this as background, what I'd like to do is sort of take you through 4 acts, or scenes if you'd prefer that kind of a term, which will sort of lay out the Newburgh Conspiracy of 1782 and 1783. So the first act that I want to look at will focus on Philadelphia. And I go back, late December of 1782, the petition arrives. And what's going to happen is that Robert Morris sees this is good. This is something we can do something with. Morris is what we historians call a nationalist. By the way, George Washington was a nationalist, wanted a stronger national government. Robert Morris has an assistant, not related to him, Gouverneur Morris, will be writing some of the detail of the Constitution of 1787. He wants a stronger national government. In fact, Gouv talked about maybe a monarchy would straighten things out. Interesting. Hamilton thought along those lines too, because Hamilton's a third one of these nationalists in the Congress. And sort of hovering out there on the edges, kind of unclear, is James Madison, future president of the United States. More philosophical, but not ready for some rough political stuff, to say the least. So the big three really are the two Morrises and Alexander Hamilton. And so what they are going to do, they're going to embrace these officers led by General Alexander McDougall. And by the way, McDougall was a wealthy man going to he's a major general, wealthy man going into the Revolutionary War. He's broke. And so he's given to the cause and given and given. He's also given his health. He has terrible health issues, rheumatism. He's only going to last another couple of years. He'll die young, as I remember the right year, 1785. And so the Morrises, Hamilton, they'll start to work with these officers, and they'll put the pressure on Congress. And they'll organize a committee, one representative from every state. And sometimes I think we're all aware that committees don't get a lot done. I mean, I won't go beyond that because I could probably get myself in trouble. But what I can tell you is they will committee this issue over and over, and meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And the opposition rises up in Congress. Arthur Lee of Virginia, younger brother of Richard Henry Lee, fights it tooth and nail. We are not going to give pensions. We want to build a republic. We don't want to have a special aristocracy. We are going to fight it. New Englanders felt the same way. And so the month of January passes while the army is seething up there. And I should have told you this, 7,500 soldiers and officers in the Newburgh, New York area, 50 miles north of New York City, 10 miles north of West Point, getting angrier and angrier and angrier. So that's where we are at the end of January.